I don't know if you all have heard, but Jeffrey Epstein, who was a wealthy financier who was awaiting trial on charges relating to sex trafficking, has been found dead of an apparent suicide. Okay, so he was in a federal prison awaiting trial. He had attempted suicide, I believe, back in July. They were able to successfully resuscitate him. And so now that he has committed suicide today, there are a lot of questions. There are questions about whether or not he was on suicide watch. There are questions as to how he was able to get a blanket and hang himself. I mean, just because he's gone doesn't mean the questions are gone. Now, of course, the saddest thing about all of this is that his alleged victims will not have their day in court. They won't have the opportunity to face their accuser, and they won't have the opportunity to see him face justice had he been found guilty. Now, the thing with Mr. Epstein is that on Friday, yesterday, hundreds of pages of documentation were unsealed from a 2015 defamation case. And a lot of information was revealed in those documents. One of the young ladies had medical records from 2001, which were part of those documents that were unsealed yesterday. But those medical records showed that she had gone to the hospital with signs of being sexually abused, signs of being molested and raped. And there are questions about why the hospital didn't contact law enforcement, because normally in the case of a child, because this girl was underage, so in the case of a child, if some child walks into a hospital or it's brought to a hospital with injuries in their private area, vaginal injuries, anal injuries, the hospital is supposed to report it to the authorities. And so there's that question about why that didn't happen. There are also questions about some of Jeffrey Epstein's associates, including a British woman named Ghislaine Maxwell. A lot of Jeffrey Epstein's accusers are saying that this woman pretty much was his wingman. She helped him and other wealthy men meet underage girls. And so with Jeffrey Epstein being gone because he took the coward's way out and committed suicide, a lot of people are now wondering, will the focus turn on his associates, the people that are believed to have helped him meet underage girls, or the people who turned a blind eye to his behavior? Because one thing that has come up is that on some occasions, he apparently spent time at Mar-a-Lago. And so the same questions that are coming up in the R. Kelly case may come up here. Like, okay, if you have a wealthy man, or perhaps groups of wealthy men, bringing underage girls to a resort or to any type of hotel, if the hotel staff observed any unusual behavior, why didn't they contact the authorities? So when you see a fully grown man coming into the hotel with, underage girls, what do you do, or what procedure do you have in place to ensure that those girls are with these men, because these men are their family members, maybe they're hanging out with dad or granddad. Like, do you just turn a blind eye when you see some, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old man show up in a hotel with an underage child? So some of those questions may come up. A lot of other people have pointed out that, there are a lot of other wealthy and influential men who were associated with Jeff Epstein. So, is it possible that there's information that came up as part of this investigation that would implicate those men? So there are questions about Prince Andrew, because he's been accused. Okay, he's been accused of linking up with at least one underage girl that he met through Jeff Epstein. Let's see who else. Bill Clinton is possibly implicated. Donald Trump. So, yeah, a lot of people are suggesting that just because Jeff Epstein took the coward's way out and killed himself does not mean that the other people in his circle are off the hook. So this is going to be very interesting to see what happens here and to see whether or not his alleged victims are able to get some sort of justice. Another question that's going to come up, because it's the same kind of question that came up in Bill Cosby's case, is, like I said, there were some documents that were supposed to have remained sealed that were unsealed on Friday. And one of the things that came up in the Bill Cosby case was that, if a person, as part of a legal settlement, makes certain admissions, thinking that the documents will be sealed, only to find out that those documents are later unsealed and that the information in those unsealed documents could possibly be used against them in a criminal or civil case. Is that a violation of that person's right to not incriminate themselves, right? Because, the thought is, would a person really make certain admissions if they realize that they would be on trial at some point because of the things that they admitted? So that's probably a question that's going to come up. Although in this particular case, you are talking about underage girls who are alleging that they were victimized. I mean, a lot of the women are adults now, but at the time of the crimes that he's accused of, these women were underage. And so, to me personally, when you're out here, there are certain types of crimes, that cannot be overlooked. And if you admit, okay, that you were molesting children, you're raping people, stuff like that, I feel like, okay, yeah, you don't get to walk away from that. You don't get to walk away from that, and we get to hold you the fuck accountable for that, period. But from a legal perspective, there is a question there about, like I said, these cases that are happening now with these wealthy, powerful men, and they're having all these documents unsealed. Is that a violation? Is that a violation of their constitutional right to not incriminate themselves? That's going to come up. Another thing that's going to come up is, Jeffrey Epstein was, I believe, convicted of child molestation charges back in 2008 and only got a slap on the wrist. And so there are people who are questioning that. Like, why did he get such a light sentence? Why was he given a slap on the wrist for violating children? So, just because Jeffrey Epstein has committed suicide, apparently, doesn't mean this is over. Let me know what you think in the comment sections. Do you think he committed suicide, or do you think that it's mighty convenient that the day after these documents were unsealed that would have implicated not only him, but a lot of other people, the next day he's found dead of a suicide? Do you think that perhaps the powers that be felt like he needed to be gone so as not to create a domino effect, where all the other people around him would have ended up in jail possibly? Let me know what you think, all right? Bye.